Welcome to the Top Dog Mindset Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of running a successful dog training business. I'm your host, Kevin, joined by my co-host, Angel. Together, we bring you expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical tips. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we're here to provide you with the necessary information to build a thriving dog training company. So relax, join us with a cup of coffee as we explore the Top Dog Mindset Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Top Dog Mindset Podcast. Kevin and Angel here, and it's been a little bit of time here since we did our last podcast. So, Angel, why don't you give us an update? What's new in your life? What's going on? I think you moved halfway across the country since the last time we recorded together.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm super happy to be back. I, as you can see, am in my new house. Did a big move from North Carolina to Texas. Yeah, super happy to be here. And by family, finally. I haven't lived near family for the past 14 years. So this is good. It's a really, really big change, but I think that was just kind of to be expected, but we're getting settled in.
For sure. And you got a new puppy.
And I got a new puppy.
Yeah, how's that going so far?
Actually great.
Is it good?
Yeah, super chill puppy.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Well, we got a cool episode today. I know that this is going to be very relevant for a lot of people just because it's stuff that I've been hearing from quite a few of our clients. And that is the idea of just people feeling like they're in a little bit of a lull right now, a little bit of a slow season in the business. And one of the main things that I think is causing that is people are seeing a lot of cancellations, even just on consultations right now. So do you mind kind of sharing like what you're seeing from people and if you've kind of been feeling the same way with some of the clients you've been working with?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have noticed that too. Like it just seems to be a little bit of a trend, like specifically right now in this season. I feel like it was starting when kids were going back to school and people are still in that season of people canceling, whether it is people who have already signed up for training. I would say more so consultations. A few things that I have talked to our clients about is I think the main thing that we started with was starting some type of nurturing sequence with people who have scheduled consultations. So basically making it a point to follow up with them at very specific times after they've scheduled. The one that we have done with our clients is reaching out to them immediately after they've scheduled, thanking them for scheduling, kind of giving them a list of things to expect and look forward to in the consultation, as well as giving a little bit more information here, go check out my Facebook page, check out Instagram, TikTok if you have it, stuff like that. And then a link to see your Google reviews. I think that's helpful because right after you've had this conversation of building rapport with people, having a small enough conversation to kind of get a gist of what you're going to be dealing with, but enough to where the client feels okay, I feel like they could actually help me. I'm excited to meet them because that's what we want. We want them to get excited to meet with the trainer, but then immediately reaching out to them and giving them a little bit more information. So that way you're just more at the forefront of their mind. And then they also just have things to look at that are, have your business name on them, looking at photos, looking at videos of dogs in training and stuff like that. And I think some people are a little concerned about that because they're well, I don't really post on social media. I don't post consistently, or, it's not a whole lot of informational stuff. And what I tell people is as long as you post sometimes, I think that is good enough for now. Yep. Because as long as someone can go to your page and see that there is content on there, I don't think people are going to go to the extent of seeing the date that you're posting things. It's just the fact that they can go somewhere and see that you exist. You are a real person. They can put a face to the name if there's photos or videos of you on there. But also just posting pictures, I think, is helpful too, because then people can see okay, these dogs look happy. They're having fun. And that's the main thing, is just giving them more things to see and remember and just constantly have your name and your business name on their mind. So yeah, that's been the first step to trying to help alleviate that issue of people canceling. But I think the most important thing is continuing to nurture that lead. Nurturing leads is important, but just because you've scheduled them for a consultation doesn't mean that now, you have them trapped and you don't have to do any of that work anymore. You
Yep.
know, there's still a lot more to do once you get into that consultation and building even more trust with them.
Yep.
So remembering to continue nurturing that lead. We had a group coaching call with our clients yesterday, actually, and I was speaking with one of our clients about this. And I'm like, I know it doesn't sound ideal to continue like these text conversations with clients. It maybe might seem annoying because it's a little bit more work, but it helps, you know? It doesn't have to be like an all day, everyday conversation up until you meet with them in person, but you know, maybe every other day, just send them a text like, hey, how are things going today? Or something that I did particularly is I would give the client something that, like a little piece of advice, something that they could work on with their dog. And it might just be like, you know, if the dog pulls on the leash when they get to like a certain part of the walk, I'm like, okay, when you start getting near that area, try this. So that way you kind of have like more of a reason to follow up with them on something by saying like, hey, have you guys gone for a walk yet? Did you try the thing? And how is that going? So it's kind of just like, it's your new friend and you're checking in. And again, one of those things where you just want to continue showing up on their phone and being at the forefront of their mind. And then the last thing that I will say about this is asking for a photo of their dogs. And I think a lot of trainers find this to be funny because especially if it's a client who has just like a mutt, like no clue what it is, you couldn't guess, it's just like a nervy, neurotic, like batshit crazy mutt of a dog, but you're like, send me a picture, and then you compliment them like, oh,
Right.
she's so cute, and just kind of like feed into basically the owner's obsession with their fur
Yeah.
child. And
Yes.
people love that. They love sharing photos of their dogs. And especially if there's someone who is going to sign up with you, they're going to want that even more. They're going to want you to be just as loving towards their dog as they are. So ask for a photo, ask questions, whether you truly care about it or not, or even if it doesn't pertain to training, just, you know, again, kind of like feed into how they are with their
Yeah.
dog.
It's all about them. Even, you know, we were kind of joking around on our group coaching call and like, even if it is the most heinous, repulsive creature from, you know, hell you have ever seen in your entire life, you
Yeah.
still just compliment them and just say, oh, how sweet, you know, how cute. And I can't wait to meet with you guys, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, the advice I also gave on that call was people ghost you, people cancel on you when they feel like their time is actually going to be better served or better suited spent somewhere else, I should say. Right. So what that really means is it's really not that big of a loss to me if I just cancel this consultation. So the way you remedy that is you have to make the consultation when you're selling that to them, even though it's free, you're still selling them on giving that them giving you their time. And you need to make sure that you really sell the hell out of it. You sell it to the point where they feel like this is such a good opportunity for them to do that they would really feel stupid saying no to it. You know, and I really think a really good analogy for nurturing leads is like dating and pursuing somebody. You wouldn't, you know, meet somebody and book your first date with them a week out and then just not talk to them up until that moment and be like, you know, are we still on? Are we not? You know, you'd probably want to send them a text every once in a while. Why are you laughing right now? What is so funny about this?
Because
I've been
Kevin,
out of the dating game for so
I
long.
know.
Am I giving horrible dating advice?
I was going to say, you would be surprised
Yeah.
at today's dating.
Well, I'm not talking about what people do. I'm talking about what people should do. Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, if well, we'll just stay on this topic for a second. If you were to, you know, meet somebody and just not stay connected to them whatsoever, you'd be like, this is kind of weird. Are we going to meet up? Are we not? You know, there's zero plan there. And so I just think that nurturing a lead is exactly the same, where it's like you can send them a training video of another dog that you're working with right now that reminds you of their dog. Or, you know, another thing that's another angle you could approach this from too is you were talking about before using your social media and different videos that you've created and looking at your reviews and stuff like that. That's a really powerful thing to do. Before every single one of our calls, I always have somebody watch one of our client success interviews. First and foremost, it makes them feel more connected. They start seeing me more, hearing my voice, and they get to hear from somebody else who works with us about their experience. Psychologically speaking, too, they have studied this, and this was really interesting to me. So I think what the study was if you move to like a new home, a new neighborhood, this could be good for you as well because you're actually going through this right now. One of the quickest ways to build a connection with somebody is not offering to help them with something, but actually asking somebody to help you with something. So saying something like, "Hey, would you mind helping me move this piece of furniture? Or would you mind just like holding this door open while I move this in?" Or something like that.
Mhm.
There's a million different examples of that, but people like to feel like they're being useful, frankly, and that they're helping. And so I think that you can kind of tie that to like nurturing leads as well. If you ask them to do it and they follow through and do it, they've already started doing stuff for you. And so I think at that point it becomes, this sounds like very self-serving, but I think it's just like human psychology where it's like they start feeling like they're more connected to you and more engaged with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned how, like, before getting on a sales call, you would have someone like watch a client success interview or something like that. And I think
Mhm,
that's really helpful also for people to see, like, the way that you interact with people and the
mhm,
types of conversations you have, how you come off, like, what your personality is like. Because
mhm.
that's obviously important when you're going to be hiring someone and but like to flip that over into dog training, same thing, like people want to see how you interact with dogs,
Mhm.
especially people who are really skeptical about sending their dogs away for an extended period of time. Like there's I feel like nothing better that you can do than to show them like how you have the ability to interact with dogs positively, and you're not showing them videos where you're like super heavy-handed with dogs,
Mhm.
especially if it's like a little tiny like fluffy foo-foo thing.
Mhm.
They want to be able to see that you can do that with their dog. So I think it's
Yes.
also like the interactions and just kind of like how you are as a person that
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, and you need to stand out in their mind, point blank.
Mhm.
They you can really start to fall into the trap of thinking that I'm the only dog trainer that they're talking to. I'm the only one who, booked a consultation with them, but they may have spoken to 5 other trainers after they called you or before they called you, and you're just one trainer of many to them. So the question is, how do you really make yourself stand out? And I think that big part of appointment setting really comes down to just really getting people excited about doing that next part of the process with you, which is either just like a sales call, a consultation, but it's not just something that you just offer to people like, hey, do you want to do this or not? You need to sell people and you need to make people really excited to do it with you. Because again, if people are excited to do it with you, they're not going to cancel on you. If they
Mhm.
feel like I can't, I booked this consultation with this dog trainer I spoke to them on Tuesday and they're coming out on Friday and they're actually looking forward to Friday, they're not going to cancel it. The reason that they cancel is just they're kind of like blah on it. They just don't really care either way. They feel like they can cancel it. That's
Yeah.
really the essence of what I'm trying to get to here is like they feel like they can cancel on you because it's not a loss to them. So you need to make it feel like it's a massive loss to them because you are the premier dog trainer in the area. You're going to fix all their problems and it's going to be the best decision that they can possibly make to spend their time meeting with you.
Yeah, and I want to share a story from when I was still training, and there was a client that I signed up. I think it was a mistake that I made on my end, and so I want to share that and like how the client responded and everything. But I went out for this consultation, and before I went out for the in-person consultation, like these people were a little combative, I guess
Uh-huh.
I would say. Like they were dead set on like we don't want to use any type of training tools besides a leash, and just like very set in their ways. And I was just like, okay, like I will still show you what we do, how we do it, how we introduce these things, how we use it in training, blah blah blah. But I saved all of that for the consultation. I pretty much just like respected what they were saying. And I was like, we'll talk about all of this in the consult. I did nurture them up until the consult. There was a lot of conversations going on. But yeah, they were very like matter of fact and not really like open to anything. That was a little bit of a red flag to me, but I'm like, people don't know what they don't know. So went for the consultation. I brought every single tool with me that there was a possibility that we could ever use with a dog. And I showed them all of them. I let them hold them. I let them feel all of them. I explained to them the process that I use to introduce it to the dog and how long I use it in that process. And then when we switch it over into training, how we use it into training and everything.
Mhm.
which I think you should do in every consultation. Bring tools with if there's a possibility you're going to use tools. But I just did it even more for them. And once I did that, they were super happy and excited to then do training and still use these tools. So it was like a complete switch. And they
Mhm.
loved me. They loved like my interaction with their dog. Granted, their dog was incredibly human reactive and all of that, but they just loved me.
Mhm.
We became friends like right away. They signed up. Their board and train was pushed out, I want to say like a month. So it wasn't too far, but it was about a month. And we spoke, I think, at like the halfway point before the board and train started. But when I went to their house to pick up the dog, they kind of had that same attitude again of a little bit like combative. I feel like that's not the correct word that I'm really looking for, but a little bit combative.
Mhm.
And there was definitely like a mood switch. And when I was talking to the husband, who, by the way, was in a wheelchair, so that was part of the training, was getting the dog comfortable walking by the wheelchair. He was basically saying like how they felt a little bit like left in the dark because after they signed up, they didn't really hear from me.
Mm.
And I think it was like, I will take partial accountability for that. And then I think the other part is just like a little bit of a misunderstanding because, like, we had everything we needed as far as like the deposit, we had a contract signed, we had any paperwork that we needed to be signed. The dog was scheduled. We had talked with them about a few, we had kind of had like, after they signed up in the consultation, I stayed a little bit longer and we kind of had like a half lesson. I gave them some things that I wanted them to work on before the dog came. And then, like I said, we talked like once in between then. But yeah, they kind of felt like there should have been more communication. And I totally understand that because there was a lot before they signed up and they went from like being super skeptical to now like loving me and super excited to send their dog away.
Yeah.
And then there wasn't as much conversation after that. So I totally understand where they were coming from. But again, like we did speak like during the halfway point, and I had told them, like, okay, we have everything we need. This is when you're scheduled. Just make sure that you have this, this, and this when your dog is picked up. But saying all that to say, people notice it, especially after they sign up and they, whether they leave a deposit or they pay in full, they are still buying into something that is costing them a ton of money. And so even after someone signs up, like I would say, still continue that conversation, even if it's not, again, like a daily thing. But you, even at that point, like, even if you are like maintaining good communication before the consultation, you still want to continue that. So that way it doesn't look as if, like, okay, like in my case, she was doing all of this because she needed the sale and then like she fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And I felt terrible about it. We talked about it. And like by the time I left with the dog, everything was all good. But that's an eye opener is like, you
Yes.
don't, even if that's not your intention, you don't want to come off that way. Cause once you pick up the dog, you don't want to leave with the dog with that in their mind. So I think at every point in which, you know, you have this person's information from when they're a new lead to even after training, like just make sure your communication is on point with people.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you never really know what's going to make somebody kind of fall off the face of the earth or just get a little bit spooked and feel like, I don't know if I made the right decision with my money.
Hmm.
We're actually not going to move forward with the program, all that stuff. So I think that reassurance is really the most important thing. And just by staying in touch with people, staying in constant communication with them, having a really good onboarding process, that all plays into it and is massively helpful. So I think
Hmm.
Leanne was saying this the other day. We were on a call with one of our clients, and she was talking about somebody who signed up and then a couple of days later said, "Hey, we know the deposit's non-refundable, but we're actually not going to go through with the rest of the program and stuff." And we were talking about what are different things that we can do to kind of make that person feel continuously connected to their business. And this is a reason why we do a couple things as a company when new clients come on, because we realize that even if you do a really good job with the sales process and people are sold, once they're kind of left to their own devices and just like their own thoughts and emotions, they can start questioning their own decision making, going like, "But should I have spent that money? Should I not have?" And I just think that if you can stay with them through that process until they sign up, you're building the ad account, until that point where they get their first sale, if you stay connected with them really, really well up until that point, you never really let that opportunity for that doubt to creep in. And it's the same thing for dog trainers. Like, you make the sale, if you stay connected with them through the time that you make the sale and the dog gets picked up or dropped off for the board and train, and you're staying connected with them for the first week or so. And then even if you can just like send them a video of something that their dog is doing, like heeling nicely on leash or loose leash walking, or staying calmly on the place bed, all of a sudden they kind of go like, oh, this is working. This is exactly what I invested in and why I'm doing this. Instead of just this was like abrupt, hey, I paid you $4,000. I don't hear from you for 3 weeks. And then the dog gets taken away and maybe I get like a photo every couple days or something like that. If you can just stay connected, and I know it's a lot to do. I mean, people sometimes say that to us. They're like, it just feels like a lot of work to do this. And it is. I mean, that's the difference though, between being just your average freelance dog trainer in your area and really separating yourself from all those trainers that behave that way.
Yeah. And even like at the point where you already have the dog and you're updating the owner, or even after the dog goes home and you're checking in, I know a lot of times like owners don't end up responding back as long as you're doing your end. Like, it's better for you to bug them trying to check in and make sure they're doing okay and connect with them and not get a response back than for them to do that and not get responses back, or for them to just sit there and wonder, like, I wonder what my dog has been doing the last 2 weeks because I haven't heard from them.
Exactly. You also make an assumption that just because you don't get a response, that they didn't see it. You know? People see stuff all the time. And, we have clients like this, right? They're doing extremely well in their business. They're very happy with us and their experience with Top Dog Advertising as a whole. And then we send them a check-in message and they read it and they don't respond. And I used to take that as like, oh man, like, are they upset or something like that? And then you finally get a response from them and they're like, all is well, thumbs up, couldn't be happier, and you're like, oh, it's just because they saw it and there was a barking dog or, whatever it may have been. And they just kind of got distracted and forgot what they were doing, forgot to send you a response. So don't take that as they're blowing me off, they're not happy. It's just, or they're not even seeing it in the first place. They are seeing it. And to your point, it's really well said. Just control the things that you can control. Send the message. And if you don't get a response, don't read too much into it, I guess I could say.
Yeah. And you mentioned something earlier regarding like not leaving clients to their own devices. I had a call with one of our clients yesterday, and he was telling me how after every consultation, he will email them this sheet that basically goes over like his policies and stuff like that. And on there, it talks about his financing options and payment plans that he offers. And because he was trying to figure out like if that's something he should send, should he edit it, all that kind of stuff. And I basically told him, like, just going off of the fact that you told me like the financing and payment options are on there, I would not send that. I would not send that to them, just because when you're in the consultation, it's information overload. So if you do happen to go over financing options, or maybe you don't, maybe they end up saying like, I literally don't have any money, I can't sign up. And then they get that in the mail or in their email and they check that out. And they're like, okay, he offers financing, but like, oh, I still can't do that one. Or, oh, I don't qualify for that one. Guess I'm not signing up. And then you never hear from them again. If they have those questions, they'll reach out to you, or you're going to talk to them anyways when you follow up with them, because you should be following up with them, and you can have that conversation with them. And if there is some type of financing option that you offer that doesn't work for them, then you can say, okay, well, here's what I can do. And then you can alter it for them. But like that human to human conversation is the most important thing, because they could read that information on the email and take it however they want. And then that could be what makes them like officially walk away and not end up signing up.
Yes. Yeah. And you reminded me of something as well. So doing an onboarding call with your clients is a really good idea as well. So think about it this way. When you grow this business and you start bringing on other trainers, the typical way this works is like the owner of the business will probably stay in the sales role for a little bit longer, make the sales, and then say, hey, your trainer is going to be Jane. So I'm going to get you connected with Jane, and then you guys are going to do your onboarding call, and she's going to hear all about what you want to do with Fluffy and, answer all your questions for you. And she's going to be your main point of contact and all that stuff. And so then that's how you kind of make the transition from you to your trainer, and your trainer is then doing the communication with the dog owner. Now, it may seem a little bit redundant to you, but to your point from before, the consultation is always information overload. And your goal is not always to get every little like nuanced part of the training across to them and stuff like that. It's to sell them. Let's be honest, right? It's to figure out what's going on. And it's an opportunity to begin that relationship and lock them down as a client. And so booking them for an onboarding call can kind of check a couple boxes for you. So first and foremost, it can give you that opportunity to have those like more nuanced conversations that you maybe didn't get a chance to have during the consultation. And again, going back to nurturing people, it also just allows you to have another touch point with people. It makes people feel like you have like more of a set process. So, you get them to sign up on Wednesday, and then you say, hey, let's schedule your official onboarding call or whatever you want to call it, to make sure that we check every single box and figure out exactly what it is that you guys are really looking to get out of training and stuff like that. And we're going to do, how does Friday work for you? How is Saturday or Monday? And again, it's like another thing for them to know that's going to be happening and for them to look forward to. Instead of just like this abrupt end, I paid money, training starts on this day. So I know we have a lot of trainers that have trainers on their team that do it that way. And this kind of feeds into another point here, which is start running your business now the way and building the systems now for your business of how it's going to function when you do have an employee. That way you don't need to figure it out when you have that employee. It's like, yeah, you're the owner, the salesperson, and the trainer, but you can still do each part of this process. You don't need to wait to get that first trainer in to start doing onboarding calls or something like that.
Right. And I think to add to that, I think just like making people feel like when you sign up, like basically just like leaving your deposit. 'Cause I know a lot of people, like they will require the deposit in order to get the dog scheduled. I think it's important to make people feel like as soon as they leave the deposit, you are their trainer. Even if the board and train doesn't start for like another 2 months, they left their deposit, so you are their trainer. So meaning check in with them, make sure things are going good, make sure, maybe you're following up to see if any behaviors have worsened, or go out and do a free lesson for them. Giving them a little bit of your time, I think is worth it. If they're signing up for like a $4,000 package, give them things to work on, even if you're just talking back and forth on the phone. Like make them feel like you are their person, even if the dog hasn't officially started the program yet.
Right. Yeah, you can't just abruptly end it. Somebody just paid you so much money, $4,000 is a ton of money. $2,000 is a ton of money. $1,000 to a lot of people is a lot of money. And so as business owners, we can start losing context and losing touch with that of how much money it is, because to you, they're just another person who's paying you $2,000. You're like, been 100 other people who have done this, moving on. You can do this or not. What's the big deal? But at the end of the day, to them, they're like, I didn't realize I was going to have to pay $2,000 to get my dog trained. When I first started going down this rabbit hole of what this was going to look like, I was envisioning PetSmart group classes for $25 a class or something like that, And all of a sudden they're spending all this money. And so staying empathetic to that fact of realizing that people are choosing to spend a lot of money with you and not developing this hardened idea of, this is just the way we do it. And, I'm really busy with other dogs. I don't really necessarily have time and stuff like that. They just paid you $2,000. You can find the time in your schedule to give them 5 minutes of your time on a phone call, or go and meet with them for a lesson, or get somebody on your team to go and do that. There's always hopping on a Zoom call. There's always stuff that can be done to kind of keep people engaged and feeling like they made the right decision. And so on that topic, I think that people think that the sales process is done when they get the money, and the whole thing is sales, right? Sometimes you'll get the money and somebody signs up to work with you and you think you're on the same page. And we see this all the time, right? Where somebody comes in and they hear about all the results that their friend got working with us, and they come to work with us, they pay, to get started with us. And then their first leads start coming in and they're not answering calls, or they are not following up with people for a couple days, or they're not booking consultations. They're just trying to sell them over 2 minutes on a call. And, now we need to sell them on why they need to do these other things and how they should be running their business and stuff like that. So it's all about changing hearts and minds. That's what sales is. And that's what, really good client communication is, So just because they paid you money and you sold them doesn't mean that the sales portion for you is actually ever done. Sometimes something comes up halfway through the program and you need to sell them on this new way of training or this new program they may need to do or something like that.
Exactly. And then this brings us back to the original point that we brought up in the beginning of the call of people dealing with clients backing out right before training starts.
Yeah, you may need to resell them, like some sort of fear or doubt crept into their mind. And a lot of times people just say, I'm just not going to do it. And you can just be like, okay, they're not going to do it, moving on. And then you're stuck in that awkward situation. Do I refund them, not refund them? But it doesn't need to end like that. You can try and re-engage them and dig a little bit deeper and be like, hey, I don't mean to go too into your personal situation or anything, but do you mind just sharing what's going on a little bit so I can kind of figure out if there's any way I can help? Like what is making you guys feel like you need to back out of this? And then just having a raw and honest conversation with them.
Exactly. And if you took all of those proper steps in the beginning, nurtured them properly, built good rapport, then I think it'll be a lot easier to navigate that conversation in the event that someone felt like they did need to back out of training, maybe for a personal reason. I think it's easier navigating that conversation of asking about what's going on and if there's a way that you can help get them kind of like back in.
Yeah. And a good analogy that I think really to drive the point home of like, really the most important thing, I think the reason we want to talk about this today was because we have some people who've been saying that they've been just getting their consultations canceled. So they had 3 consults cancel or scheduled and then all 3 or 2 of them canceled during the week. And they're like, what is going on here? And like I said before, it's because people feel like they can cancel and they're not losing out. That's really, to me, why somebody cancels. Because if they really felt like they were missing out on something, they'd be like, I need to cancel because there's an emergency that came up, but I still want to do this. Can we do it next week? So just think of it this way. Like a good analogy for this would be like, hey, I'll tell you what, if you can meet up on Friday, there's this bag of cash of $10,000 sitting here. You know what I mean? Like you just need to come over on Friday and pick it up. And people were like, I'm going to be there, rain or shine, because I'm going to go and get $10,000. Right.
Yeah.
And so you need to make that consultation feel like they're picking up a bag of $10,000 cash. So obviously that's a pretty extreme example of this. And it's like, okay, how do you equate those two things? But I think the way you do that is making them feel like, first and foremost, I'm not going to try and jam something down your throat. I'm not going to try and make you buy something if you're not comfortable and you decide this isn't for me. Like tell them that, hey, there's no pressure to buy anything. We just need to see you, meet your dog, see exactly what's going on. That takes a lot of the pressure off. We say that to people and it's sincere. I'm not going to make you buy something if you don't want to do it. I don't want to have you as a client. It's not going to be a good relationship. You're not going to be happy. We're not going to be happy trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So let's just not do it, So if it's not a good fit, you don't need to buy anything. The second thing is like really reinforcing people like, hey, you doing this, at the very least, you're going to get really good tips and tricks and information on dog training, whether you decide, say this to them, whether you decide to work with us or not, or choose a different dog trainer. My goal is to at least be able to help push you in the right direction to help you guys make the best decision for yourselves and your pup. So you say something like that, and all of this makes people feel like they can take a sigh, like a deep breath and a sigh of relief of going, okay, I'm not going to show up to this thing where it's going to be these high pressure sales tactics and stuff like that. I'm going to get free information. And yeah, they're going to probably try and pitch me on something, but at the end of the day, he told me or she told me that they're going to help me try and make the best decision for my family possible. Instead of just offering it and saying like, hey, we do consultations. You want to do one? Like this all kind of makes people feel a lot more comfortable to actually spend the time meeting with you.
Yeah, they're getting not only getting something out of it, but you've also built a connection with them.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be harder canceling something with someone that you have a connection with, and that they give you something for free.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and let people know too that it's totally fine and a good thing for you to say to people like, hey, I just want to check. I know you said Thursday at 4:00 is going to work well for you. I just need to make sure that like there's a really high likelihood that you guys are going to follow through and we're going to be able to do this just because we're a small business, we're first come, first serve, and we do have limited time. So I want to make sure that like we're using the time as wisely as possible. So can you guys commit to meeting on Thursday? Is that going to work for you? Like, you don't even need to go that far into it, but just like even hinting at the idea and letting people know like, oh yeah, wait a second. This is the owner of the business. He's a person too. He's a real human being who has a real family and we're all busy, So it's not okay for me just to cancel on him the day before. And I really think if you say that to somebody and they say, yes, I'm committing to doing this, then it's really hard for them to back out at that point, because they're going to look at their husband or their wife and say, you know what, we told this person that we were going to do this. Like, he explicitly asked me and I told him, yes, we can do it. Instead of just them feeling like, oh, this is just some company I'm canceling on. They have other people they can fill the spots with and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to communicate this stuff with people. I think if you're more honest and open with them and just tell them how it actually is, then they have more insight into your business and how things run. And I think that there's going to be a higher likelihood at that point of adding all this stuff together, people following through and increasing your show up rate. That's really what this is, unlike the online coaching space and marketing space and stuff like that. People refer to this as show up rate. It's no different for dog trainers. This is a metric that you want to track. And that's the last thing I want to finish with here. And then, Angel, I want to get your kind of closing thoughts on this. But your emotions can really play tricks on you. And sometimes they can make you feel like you're doing way worse than you actually are. And sometimes they can make you feel like you're doing way better than you actually are. And so that's why looking at the numbers is so important. So the three main metrics that I really think are so important to pay attention to in your sales process is, like, first off, what is my appointment setting rate? How many leads did I get? And what percentage of those leads did I actually get booked for consultations? From there, paying attention to your show up rate. What percentage of people that said they were going to do a consultation and booked a consultation with us actually showed up to do their consultation? And then third, everyone's favorite metric to pay attention to is what percentage of leads did I close? But the first two are really equally as important. It's like, divide your sales process into thirds and pay attention to it. It's like setting rate, show up rate, closing rate. Don't just focus on the closing rate. It's a really, fun thing to look at. I close 80% of my leads and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, are you hemorrhaging leads and opportunities on the front end of this, where either most people are not booking consultations, or are they not actually showing up to their consultations? So I just want to add that in there too, because I think that's super important.
Yeah. And also to add to that, like, this is why it is so, so important to actually keep your leads organized and understand where everyone is at. Because when you break your sales process down into thirds, like you just mentioned, I think it's a lot easier to focus on each particular process in your sales process, if that makes sense. So when you answer the phone and you're just giving prices out over the phone and expecting people to sign up right then and there, you've just skipped over parts of your sales process. So that's going to make it even more difficult for you to actually, like, track those numbers. But then I also wanted to add to what you were talking about before with just making people feel like they can't back out of a consultation because you just made the offer too good for them. I know I've talked about my experience whenever I first did a consultation, like, a trainer came out to do a consultation for me, for my dogs, when I signed them up for training. And that was like 14 years ago. That's my old man that's been walking around back there. But yeah, I was pretty much in constant communication with that trainer. And then the day that I was supposed to have the consult, I was out running errands, ended up getting a flat tire. And yeah, so I missed the consult, but, like, I reached out to her and it was already dark outside and it was getting late. There's a huge part of me that was just going to cancel, but she was like, okay, like, no problem. How much longer do you think it'll be? And whatever. Like, she was still willing to make it work for me. And then I felt like the asshole if I was going to cancel. So I was like, oh, okay, I should be home in maybe like 30 minutes or whatever. So I ended up going through with it. And we both pretty much pulled up in my driveway at the same time. But yeah, like, that just kind of, like, goes to show, like, she made the offer too good for me. She was in communication with me. Like, there was a connection there to where, like, when I didn't want to cancel because I felt like I could get training elsewhere. I was going to cancel just because it was an inconvenience for me at that time. Like, I was stressed out. It was dark out. I was changing a flat tire, all of that stuff. But like I said, I would have felt like the asshole if I canceled because she was still willing to work it out with me, granted how late it was. So
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, for sure. One last thing. I know I said before, this is the last thing I say, and then I'll let you close out, but I need to get the last word. You know me. I need to squeeze this in there. This is why it's so important to have an abundance of leads too. Because if you don't have a good marketing process, you don't have a good client acquisition system and you're stuck just totally relying on word of mouth referrals, it is devastating when you think that you have a consultation lined up, that's somebody who seems like they're a really high quality lead, they're ready to go. And then all of a sudden they cancel on you and then they ghost you and you never talk to them again. You're like, I was banking on that $2,000 board and train or private training program or $4,000 board and train to pay my bills for this month or to pay, my mortgage or pay my other trainer I have on my team. And so I can totally relate to that. It's completely devastating. Like it totally feels like the rug got ripped out from underneath you. But that's why you need to have good marketing and an abundance of leads, because you don't want to be in that position. You want to be in a position where you feel like, okay, it sucks. This person bailed on me, but I have 5 other consultations lined up this week. I'm not that stressed about it. Like everything's going to fall into place. And so, if you guys are stressed, or anybody who's listening to this, like, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody on our team, book a call with one of us, because at the end of the day, if you are totally reliant on word of mouth referrals, there's just no consistency to that. And that's gonna happen. Like people are going to cancel. People are going to have stuff that comes up. They are going to need to reschedule. And so you just want to, again, have an abundance of leads. And that way you never need to really feel fully like, I don't know what I'm going to do here because I don't know when the next lead is going to come in. So
Yeah. Well,
go ahead, Angel.
I want to have the last word.
Sorry, go ahead. I tried, but you can have it.
I have something to add to that.
Okay.
Because I have heard people say, like, if a consult cancels or something like that, it's like, oh, it's okay. I have 5 more lined up, what you just mentioned. But what I've also noticed is that can sometimes cause people to be like, okay, I do have all these consults lined up. So them canceling that one is nothing, or me maybe following up with that one is no big deal, or me calling that person back right away is no big deal because I have all these other consults lined up. So with an abundance of leads, with your schedule full of consults and all of that, don't let that take away from your other systems and processes with nurturing your current leads and continuing to schedule more and more consults. Just stay ahead of the game, stay prepared to continuously book yourself out. So that way, when and if you do get to that point of feeling like, okay, it slowed down a little bit. Now, all my consults this week have canceled, or now I'm in a season where it gets slower. And you could have had yourself booked out, but you just enjoyed having so much business before that you felt like it was okay to like kick your feet up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, never rest on your laurels at any point in your business. You're never above, or you're never too busy to nurture every lead that comes in, try and reschedule people, all that stuff. So that's a really good point. I'm glad you said that. All right. Well, with that being said, I mean, we're at the hour here, so we're going to wrap it up here, but I hope you guys got some value out of this. And yeah, stay tuned. I mean, we're kind of getting back into the swing of things now that Angel, you're all settled in, and we've had a ton of stuff going on as well. So I'm excited to kind of get back to recording weekly and stuff like that. So as always, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the support. And yeah, if there's anything that you guys want to hear us talk about, always make sure to reach out, send somebody a message on our team, either me or Angel, and we can definitely create some content for any sort of topic that you guys might have. So I appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys all very soon in the next one. See you guys.
Bye, guys.